All right, welcome back, y'all. Hopefully you came just from the reading of the Torah portion, or if not, hopefully you have read it yourself or with your family. We are in the Torah portion Pinchas, which means Phineas. It is Numbers 25:10 through the end of 29, and there is a few interesting things in here. And we'll start off with the other half of the small story of Phineas.
Well, I think one of the things that I like to do when we talk about Phineas, last week's portion ended with the story. This week's portion begins with the reward. And the reward is really substantial. Phineas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon the Cohen, has deflected my anger from the people of Israel by being as zealous as I am, so that I did not destroy them in my own zeal, was the words God said to Moses. And then he said, I am giving him my covenant of shalom, making a covenant with him and his descendants after him, that the office of Cohen will be theirs forever. Well, the office of Cohen was already that was of the line of Aaron, Phineas's grandfather. But now, because of this action, it's narrowed down. It's not just the line of Aaron. It's the line of Phineas through Aaron that will be the office of Cohen.
Is that exclusive? Do we have, of course, Aaron had 4 sons, 2 of whom died in their, strange fire incident. And then we have Eleazar and Ithamar here. So are there no priests that you're aware of that were recorded of the line of Ithamar? Like, is it now exclusive to Phineas?
Yes, absolutely exclusive to Phineas and his lineage. And so that's the reward that's pretty grand. And covenant of shalom in English is translated as covenant of peace. But as we discuss this, I will suggest that maybe our common definition of peace needs to be adjusted.
Okay.
We back up a little bit. What did Phineas do?
Yeah, he went and killed a couple of people.
Yeah.
Rather abruptly.
Rather
it implies.
abruptly. In the sight of Moses and the whole community of Israel, as they were weeping at the entrance to the tent of meeting, a man of Israel came by, bringing to his family a woman from Midian. When Phineas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon, the Cohen, saw it, he got up from the middle of the crowd, took a spear in his hand, and pursued the man from Israel right into the inner part of the tent, where he thrust his spear through both of them, the man from Israel and the woman through her stomach, therefore stopping the plague. Now, the language is a little bit ambiguous.
Yeah.
But this started, it was plain that they were at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Moses and the whole community was there. And this happened in the sight of everyone. Phineas was just the grandson of Aharon, the son of Eleazar, who was now high priest. And he's watching this going, oh no. Okay, well, first of all, the high priest was the only one allowed to be where they just went.
Yeah, if that is a tabernacle, but yeah.
Yeah. Secondly, the language of the Torah has been koshered a bit, which sometimes is convenient. You can read it in front of the little children and it's not quite so graphic.
Right.
But what was going on here was the result of Balak wanted Balaam to curse Israel.
Yeah.
God wouldn't let him. Balaam knew, I can't curse them because God won't let me curse them. But I can tell you how to make Israel curse themselves.
Yeah.
And it was through the women of Midian going in and provoking the men of Israel to join them in their vile pagan practices.
Yeah.
And they brought that to the tent of meeting.
Yeah. And that's in chapter 25 verse 1, saying Israel abode in Shittim, the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Verse 2, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And verse 3, and Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of God was kindled against Israel. So, I mean, let's go ahead and be clear here. I haven't looked up this word whoredom as it's translated in the King James, They have all the good, powerful words,
Yes.
But anyway, but I'm pretty confident that that is the word that means temple prostitution.
Yes.
And so you have...
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. You have religious rites that involved women in their temples doing what you do with a prostitute, but that was sanctified as a holy thing for their God, and this is like a calling for those women. And there's a variety of ways, depending on the religion, how they got there. A lot of times they were like widows or didn't have fathers or stuff like that. And I believe in another case that it was sort of like a commandment everybody had to do it once. That was more in the Fertile Crescent. But think about what a draw this is. You can go and get laid for free.
Among the secular society, there are some peculiar practices that are very similar.
Perhaps.
I've heard of fathers taking their sons to the houses of ill repute as a ritual of manhood.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's as common today as it once was.
Oh, God, no. No.
But
that would be so politically incorrect. Are you kidding me?
There was a day not so long ago that was very popular in our society.
Yeah.
Among secular people. And flesh is weak.
Yeah.
When you appeal to flesh, it takes an extremely powerful person to overcome that. Balaam knew this.
Yeah.
This was the perfect military strategy. I can't attack you, I can't curse you, but I can make you curse yourself.
Yeah. I can corrupt you.
Yes.
I can weaken you from the inside and you'll collapse.
So Phineas is watching this. He's going, oh, I've had like stands, I can't stand no more. He picks up his spear and he goes to town. And Phineas is my hero. But there's a couple of things here that are really important to understand. First of all, was Phineas protecting the town square? Did he go into the bar downtown and see something going on that wasn't right, and he went in and attacked the people that were doing this vile thing?
No, he didn't go to Moab. This was in the camp. This is in front of, they were at the tabernacle.
He didn't go down to the street corner and beat people over the head with the Bible. And this was brought to the tabernacle. This was brought to the holiest place on earth. And Phineas said no. He was defending the holy place of Israel. And by taking a spear and running it through these two people, he was granted the covenant of peace. Does that sound like it was a peaceful thing that he did? As we understand peace?
Right.
And that's why I say maybe we need to adjust our understanding of peace. An old ministry partner of mine, I wish I had his notes. Someday, Lord willing, I'll take the time to recreate his study. He went through the Hebrew letters of the word shalom.
Mm-hmm.
And each letter has a meaning, which means that each word is more than a word. It's also a sentence. And the results of his study was shalom meant to destroy the bringer of chaos. When we look at the story of Phineas, and he was granted the covenant of shalom, he did that because he destroyed the bringer of chaos, and in so doing stopped the plague that was going on against Israel.
Yeah.
It was as if God said, all right, there's somebody down there that's as zealous as I am who put a stop to this nonsense. I'm going to quit killing people and give him a chance. The same way Moses intervened at the golden calf and said, no, God, don't kill them all.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go fix it. We can't have true... My conclusion from this is true peace is not the absence of conflict. To have true peace, you have to destroy the bringer of chaos so that there is peace. Otherwise, there's constant conflict. And
it's interesting that would be destroying the bringer of chaos, because I've been sitting here going, oh, okay, so he restored order. But that's not exactly right. It's true,
yeah,
but that's not exactly right either, because destroying the bringer of chaos removes the chaos, but it's a different thing than like thinking of like restoring order. Like there's more to restoring order. This is like removing an evil influence.
Once you remove that evil influence, then you have to establish order, preferably God's order, or you end up with more chaos.
Yeah.
But if you don't remove the chaos, you can't establish order. If you don't replace the chaos with order, it devolves into chaos again.
It could be. I'm noticing here, though, that there is a specific thing that's going on here. And it's that translation, or that, I don't know what that's called actually, but an understanding of the word shalom as being destroying the bringer of chaos. You have here somebody bringing chaos. You have a force, which is Moab, and, you know, their king Balak, that is introducing this chaos and is undermining the camp and is undermining it's undermining the social order, actually. But it's undermining, it's tearing families apart, obviously. Yep. You know, it's putting people against each other. And now notice here something very interesting. So what we just went through with they were committing whoredom with the daughters of Moab, so they were going out to them, and they were being enticed by the freebie. And well, while they're there, it's like, oh well, they want to get laid some more, so you know they ate with them and ate food to the idols, and they bowed to them, of course, you know, because like you get pulled into that. And God's anger is of course kindled by this, and there Moses and the heads of the people and all that are standing in front of the temple weeping about this. And this guy walks up, he brings the hooker home.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
So think about where you have to be in that society for him to feel comfortable doing that. Your society's cut in two. At this point, it's succeeding. It's being torn apart. You've got Moses and you've got these leaders who are going, oh my God, this is going to destroy us. And you got the guys on the other side saying, this is no big deal, whatever, we're just going to do this no matter what you think. And they're getting bolder in that, and it's going, it's destroying the unity.
And recognize, back up in verse 4 of chapter 25, Adonai said to Moshe, take all the chiefs of the people and hang them facing the sun before Adonai, so that the raging fury of Adonai will turn away from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Moshe said to the judges of Israel, each of you is to put to death those in his tribe who have joined themselves to Baal Peor. They're lamenting because they're killing Israelites
Mm-hmm.
because of their actions. And then this dude brings the whore into the tent of meeting.
Mm-hmm.
How brazen was that?
Yeah, pretty brazen. I wouldn't think that they would have been killing at that point yet. They've received the instruction.
Okay.
And Moses has given the instruction to the judges. And then this happens. The very next verse is verse 6. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman. So it's like, this has gone out. And oh my God, it's just like he's walking right in there with her.
Now, I don't think Moses condoned this,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't see anything recorded that he spoke up. We see, likely, since it was at the tent of meeting and we have all this going on, all the heads of Israel was there.
Mm-hmm.
Why was it Phineas, the one that stood up and said no? Because it wasn't really his place. He did not have a position of authority. He was in a lineage of authority, but he didn't have a position of authority. Now,
I would put to you that that things are on a hair trigger, basically.
mm-hmm.
That there is maybe some hesitation because the camp is so split that if you start doing this, you lose control of everything.
Could be.
And when Phineas jumps up and does this, it crosses a certain threshold. He jumps up and does this in his zeal. He is not in power, which may be key to this.
He actually did not have the right to go into the tent himself. But he was at least of the lineage that of someday he would have that right. But he went ahead and went in anyway to do what needed to be done.
Yeah.
What can we glean from that? Because God was very pleased with what he did.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily that you can go around killing people per se.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting.
But, yeah, no.
I'm going to be a little facetious here.
Mm-hmm.
Do we glean from that we continue to watch the evil happen in our world, and we sit on the couch and go, God's going to pass judgment one of these days,
Yeah, no.
and do nothing?
No, it's not.
I don't
I mean,
think
it's
that
very
that's
clear that you have to stand up against it. And specifically, if you're talking about this whole bringer of chaos thing, specifically against the things that undermine and destroy and corrupt your society and your culture from the inside.
Yes.
Those things that kind of eat away, they're hard to define,
Mm-hmm.
but just rip your belly out from underneath.
We need to understand what being Israel means. Literally translated, it is the princes of God expecting to inherit the throne. That doesn't mean we submit to the world.
Mm-hmm.
We are called to have, to borrow from the Messiah's teachings, we're called to have the faith of a mustard seed. which has a whole lot of connotations to it. But one of them is that mustard takes over any place that it's planted.
Yeah.
Completely
That's a
takes it
weed.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't
We've done the opposite of that for at least 70 years. And honestly, I think it goes back further than that. But definitely post-war, World War II.
What we need is the spirit of the people that wrote the songs like March On Christian Soldier.
Yeah.
We need some of that spirit. We need to understand that we are the princes of God. We're supposed to dominate our environment. We're supposed to say, not no, but hell no, that ain't happening here.
Yeah. Yeah, not leave injustice floating around, and or doing its thing, and not leave corruption untackled.
But at the same
It's
time,
not somebody else's job, it's ours.
yeah. But at the same time, not become tyrants.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because we're humans, that may be a very difficult task.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have the love of Messiah, the love of God, but we also have to have the zeal of God.
And a willingness to step up like Phineas, not being, because we're not really talking about political power here.
No.
I mean, that can be a result, but we're not talking about that kind of thing. We're talking about in everyday life when you see injustice happen, like somebody is, getting fired for something that they might have said 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
We have this rampant nowadays where, well,
Yeah.
okay, I'll give you a very good example. And this actually didn't happen recently. This happened years ago, or several years ago, but it was a harbinger. The CEO of Mozilla, the company that makes Firefox web browser, he back when California had the Proposition 8, I think it was, I think it was in 2008, and they were the proposition was for a constitutional amendment in the state of California to define marriage as being between a man and a woman, and he supported that, and he'd given money to that.
Okay.
Well, you fast forward several years, that proposition passed, by the way, and then was struck down by a judge as being unconstitutional, which is hilarious because it was a constitutional amendment. And then a few years after that, of course, you have the Supreme Court then deciding that you have a constitutional right to marry your own gender. So he gets pressured out of his position as CEO because he gave some money to the Proposition 8 campaign. And it wasn't even that it was like an active thing with him. It wasn't like he was going around going, oh, I don't like gay people or anything like that. It was nothing like that. It was because he had committed the sin of being wrong in the eyes of those people years before. Oh, but now we can get you. And he was forced out of his position as CEO. He lost his job. And that was a harbinger. I mean, there's many people since that have lost their job either for standing up for what's right or for standing up what they thought was right, even if they're wrong. Mm-hmm. And they have gotten, or for making a joke, or for any kind of thing that does not hew to the revolutionary orthodoxy, which are amusing words to put together, by the way, revolutionary orthodoxy.
I'm doomed.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to try to bring it back to Phineas here.
Well, that's exactly what I was getting ready to do. Mm. Phineas was defending the holy place. Mm-hmm. What do we have in our society today that's holy enough to stand up and risk offending somebody in defense of?
We don't have the physical place of the temple.
No, we don't.
But we have some concepts that have become part of our society as Americans that are holy, that ultimately they come from the Bible, that are holy and that build a really great country to live in. So freedom of speech, for example.
Yes.
The notion that, which the First Amendment is all about freedom of conscience. You have the right to, believe and have the opinions that you have, and you have the right to say them, you have the right to publish them.
The right to life.
Yeah.
While we're murdering babies on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
The right to liberty while justice is for sale to the highest bidder. The pursuit of happiness, as long as it doesn't offend someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And no, if your happiness damages someone else, though, that's not what it's saying. But if my happiness is eating a steak and you happen to be vegan, well, don't join me for my steak.
Mm-hmm.
But
or vice versa.
Yeah.
Lay off my tofu, man.
yeah, absolutely. How wise our founding fathers were. I believe the sanctity of marriage is one of those things. The idea of marriage is something that we need to stand for.
Yeah.
As something that is holy. Now, in today's society, the church gave up marriage to the state. I think we need to reverse that. The state doesn't have any business being in the marriage business.
Yeah.
But I'll also say it's not right for two people that have shared the last 30 years of their life together, and one's dying in ICU and the other one can't go see them because they're not married and they're not family.
Mm-hmm.
That's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I do not approve of the lifestyle, but that's wrong.
Right.
So, no, I'm not a bigot.
Mm-hmm.
I have a heart, but I think that we need to preserve the holiness of marriage as God defined it.
And we have to understand the holiness of marriage.
Yes.
And why it exists. And that, I think, is something that we very much lost. And we've even lost the very notion of something being sacred. We don't think in those terms anymore because we've followed the morality of we don't really have time to really get too deep into this. But there are different types of morality, and one of them is liberty. Another one is care. Another one is well, anyway, I forget the other two, or the other three. But one of them is sanctity. And so we don't understand what it means for something to be sacred and for us to hold something sacred. And I think we have to regain that, because I think we are seeing the effects in the chaos in our streets. We are seeing the effects of no longer holding anything sacred.
Which takes us to a verse that I want to touch on before we run out of time.
All right, well, let's touch on it because we're getting close on time.
Chapter 27, beginning in verse 15.
Okay.
Moshe said to Adonai, "Let Adonai, God of the spirits of all human beings, appoint a man to be over the community, to go out and come in ahead of them, to lead them out and bring them in, so that Adonai's community will not be like sheep without a shepherd." I think that's what we're describing. As believers, we're wandering around without a shepherd. And it's of our own doing, because God established leadership. He gave us his word, but we're not following that. We're not allowing him to be our king. And I wish that we had more time to deal with this, because you had some great points that go in with that.
Mm-hmm.
But
we should maybe do an extra, session at some point to discuss exactly this and those 6 different moralities and what we are missing in our society that is allowing this kind of chaos that we see.
Well, this is another portion that we could go on for hours, because we've just barely touched 2 little paragraphs.
Yeah.
And there's so much more in here.
There is a lot in here, but it will have to wait for another day because we are out of time. So folks, remember that there is such a thing as the sacred, and there is a need to defend the sacred. So stand up in your life for the good, for the holy, and especially for each other. See you next week.